What's up, everybody? I'm Big Dog named Austin, and I gotta go over something with you guys. Okay, I got a request. What needs to happen to what teams in order for the Colts to be in the playoffs, be closer to the playoffs? What needs to happen? I'm gonna go over it. Okay. Now the Colts cannot clinch a playoff spot yet. They have to keep winning. What it really boils down to put it into simplest terms, you're 3-0, you're in. Okay? Now, the numbers here say 99%. Now, I'm sure that it's a guarantee. I don't know any scenario where the Colts win out and don't get into the playoffs. Currently, the Colts are 8-6, and they're in the 7th seed in the playoffs. The Ravens are the number 1 seed at 11-3. The number 2 seed is the Miami Dolphins at 10-4. The number 3 seed are the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-5. The 4 seed are the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8-6. Those are your 4 division leaders. The Ravens, they're probably going to run away with the North. The Dolphins, if they slip up a little bit, which they can, then that's going to be a battle with the Bills for the AFC East. The Chiefs, they're going to win the West. The Jaguars, I'm going to get into that a little bit here with the Colts. The Jaguars, I feel like they're in trouble. And then you got the Cleveland Browns. They're 9-5. They've probably got that 5 spot locked up. Okay, they're not going to catch Baltimore. But that 5 spot, they have a head-to-head win over the Colts. I'm almost positive that they're undefeated. They have to be undefeated against the Bengals, right? Because I know the Bengals are 0-4 in their division. Well, the Browns got the Bengals one more time this season. Earlier this season, in fact, week 1, the Browns won against the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3. So they play again week 18. So I guess the Ravens, could be caught, but I feel like the Browns they're going to be stable right there at that 5 seed. The Bengals are at that 6 seed right now. If you look at the Bengals, who they got coming up this week, they've got the Pittsburgh Steelers on Saturday. Now, this is one of those games. This is one of the games that the Colts could look at and say, okay, this is where we want the Pittsburgh Steelers to win against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are 8-6. We're 8-6. The Bengals are ahead of us because they beat us a couple weeks ago. They actually smashed us, but, a win's a win. So they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over us at the moment. If they were to lose a game and the Colts were to win a game, the Colts would be above them. So certainly a Bengals loss could help. The Steelers winning isn't really going to affect the Colts anymore, even if the Colts lose, because the Colts, again, they have that head-to-head tiebreaker. So that's one game that matters. Another game that really matters that's on Saturday that I would like to get some help in. Now, I've said in a few videos that I think that the Buffalo Bills are the biggest threat at that 7th spot because you don't play them, and if you slip up, they could win out, and boom, they're right there. But the Bills, they have the Chargers, and the Chargers, I don't know if you saw it, but last time they played football, well, I guess that's what you want to call it. They got beat 63-21. They were down like 49-0 at halftime. Just absolutely annihilated, and they fired their head coach, fired their GM. But that's another game that the Colts could really, really benefit from a team losing, and that team being the Buffalo Bills, because they too are 8-6. So, but that game, I think both those games will not go the Colts' way. The Bengals at Steelers, the Bills at Chargers. I don't think those games will go the Colts' way, if I'm being completely honest. But you never know. You never know. Keep looking here. A 1 o'clock game. This game, I don't feel it has that much importance to it. Now, if the Texans do beat the Cleveland Browns, look out. I think that the Browns win this game. CJ Stroud looks to be out again. I think Nico Collins is out. They're down a couple of guys, and they're playing a better team. Granted, it is in their home stadium, but they're playing a better team in the Cleveland Browns, who have something to fight for, who are still trying to make the playoffs. They don't have anything locked up. So I think that the Cleveland Browns can win that game. Now, that's another game that could help the Colts. But being that the Colts have them in Week 18, I'm not real concerned about what the Texans do now. Because if we just take care of our business, if we just do what we need to do, then we shouldn't have to worry about the Texans because we'll beat them in Week 18. But it would probably help. It would probably be nice if the Texans did take a loss this week. You never know how the final 3 weeks are gonna work itself out for any team. So any help in any place you can get is good. Now, but like I keep coming back to, the Colts just have to win. And that's key. If the Colts go 0-3, don't worry about it. Forget about it. That's a 0% chance to make the playoffs. They're done. So don't even worry about that. But that's another big game. The Browns at the Texans at 1 o'clock on Sunday. This is a massive, massive game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers currently lead the NFC South. They're 7-7. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who they've lost the last 3 games. They started off, 8-3, a 90% chance to win the AFC South. And then it's just gone down every week. And now they're currently sitting at 8-6 at first place in the AFC South. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Indianapolis Colts. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Houston Texans. But all 3 teams sit at 8-6, tied for first place in the AFC South. The Jaguars go into Tampa Bay. Now, I don't know how good the Jacksonville Jaguar fans travel. I don't know how many Jaguar fans are going to be in Tampa Bay, but I bet you that Tampa Bay is going to be a raucous environment because they're trying to make the playoffs too. They've got the Saints chomping on their heels. The Saints play tonight. If the Saints get a big win against the Rams, the Saints are right there in prime position for them to win the NFC South. And then you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers. Okay, the Falcons. So it's really the Saints, because the Falcons are 6-8. Okay, and if we take care of business, like I keep saying, the Falcons will lose. They'll be 6-9. They're done. So it's really the Saints and the Buccaneers. This is a big game for the Buccaneers, just as big as it is for the Jaguars, because the Jaguars, they know the Colts and the Texans are on their heels. Or they're right there. One slip up by the Jags. If they lose another game this season, and either the Texans or the Colts win out, division champs, right there. Now, of course, it's going to be the Colts, right? Because the Colts, they have the Falcons this week. They've got the Raiders next week. And then they've got the Houston Texans Week 18. So, let me get through this. So that game is huge. Jags at the Buccaneers. That game is absolutely huge. That is at 4:05 on December 24th. That game, I'm going to be locked in. Okay? I'm going to be hardcore rooting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Go Bucks. Okay? I might go buy myself a Tom Brady Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey. If the Colts beat the Falcons, of course. If the Colts don't beat the Falcons, don't bother me. I'm not want to be bothered that day. But looking at some other scenarios, I don't quite see anything else that's that massive to the Colts. I think that's it. Really, you want to look at the Browns, Bengals, Texans, Bills. You want to watch what they're doing, and certainly want to watch what the Jacksonville Jaguars are doing. So those teams are really who you want to watch. All of them, if they all lose, fantastic. And the Colts, obviously, they've got to win. Now, to get into the specifics, these numbers were crunched, and they're on 1070 The Fan. Kevin Bowen, I listen to him every morning on the morning show. Awesome stuff. But this is the numbers that he laid out this morning, and I went to his website to make sure I got all these right. So, if both teams, the Colts and the Texans, if they both finish with the same record, with the Texans beating the Colts in Week 18, the final tiebreaker, because they would have both split the head-to-head matchup, the final tiebreaker would come down to strength of victory, which right now the Texans have. I don't know how to elaborate on that any further, but that's what I've got. So if you want to rewind that and try to piece it together. So I'll repeat that. Both teams, if they finish with the same record, with the Texans beating the Colts in Week 18, because they'd have to split. Of course, if the Colts beat the Texans Week 18, forget about it. Then the tiebreaker would be strength of victory. So I'm guessing margin of victory, and right now the Texans have that over the Colts. But let's hope it doesn't get to that. Now, there's different numbers, different ways we can finish. We have the Atlanta Falcons this week, the Vegas Raiders next week, and the Houston Texans in Week 18. If we finish 3-0, we're in. Okay, plain and simple. If we finish 2-1 with us beating the Falcons and the Raiders but losing to the Texans, try to keep up with this. This is going to be a lot. If we go 2-1 with us beating the Falcons, Raiders, and losing to the Texans, 57% chance the Colts make the playoffs. If the Colts go 2-1 with those 2 wins coming against the Falcons and the Texans and losing to the Raiders, the chance the Colts have to make the playoffs is 87%. If the Colts finish 2-1 in the next 3 games with a loss to the Falcons, a win to the Raiders, and a win to the Texans, the chance they have to make the playoffs is 94%. Now, let's get into the 1 and 2s. If the Colts finish 1 and 2 with losing to the Falcons, losing to the Raiders, and beating the Texans, they have a 26% chance of making the playoffs. Again, 1 and 2, this is another 1 and 2 scenario. 1 and 2, if they lose to the Falcons, beat the Raiders, lose to the Texans, an 11% chance to make the playoffs. And one final one, I know this was a lot. If you kept up with this, good, thank you. But last one, if they finish 1 and 2 with a win against the Falcons and a loss against the Raiders and a loss against the Texans, the Colts have a 3% chance to make the playoffs. The games against the AFC teams matter the most. You have to beat the Raiders and you have to beat the Texans. I would argue you have to beat the Falcons. Okay? But if you're going to lose one of the next 3, it has to be the one against the Falcons. You absolutely have to beat the Texans. I don't see a scenario. The 3 scenarios in this where we lose to the Texans, we have a 57% chance of making the playoffs going 2-1, losing to the Texans. 11% chance and a 3% chance. All 3 of those scenarios, us losing to the Texans. Clearly, that game is way more significant than any of the other 2 games. The other 2 games on the schedule. So that's really it. That's all that the playoffs right now. Things are getting hot. There's you just gotta wait. If the Colts take care of business against the Falcons, they'll continue to be there in the playoffs. Again, the Bills, they're playing on Saturday. The Texans, they're playing on Sunday. So, we'll see. It's a tough time of year. You got so many different things going on. The Colts are in race for the wild card. They're in the race for the South. But really, they're just telling themselves, let's just keep winning, and it'll all take care of themselves. And this is an exciting year because it was a year that nobody thought that the Colts are going to make the playoffs, even with Anthony Richardson. Like, Anthony Richardson's starting to come back into the news now. He's out of his sling. They're talking about him coming back early, and then there's been questions like, oh, he's going to play? No. That was shot down real quick. But he's getting healthier, which is awesome. But the whole year at the beginning of the season was about Anthony Richardson's development. Even with Anthony Richardson and even with Gardner Minshew, I didn't think we would even sniff the playoffs. But here we are, December 21st. It's 4 days till Christmas. What do you think I want for Christmas? I want Colts to make the playoffs. Of course, that's what I want for Christmas. The last time the Colts made the playoffs was in 2020, which was fine, okay? 2020 was a fine year. I went to a handful of home games. It was cool, but, they ultimately lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Buffalo Bills. It just didn't have a good feel to it. This season feels different. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that right now. This season has had good games all throughout. Has had good times. I've been to 2 away games this year, and I'm one in one of those away games. It has been incredible. We were pretty close to going to Atlanta on Sunday, But it's really been a fun season. Last time the Colts have won a playoff game was in 2018. That was when Andrew Luck was with the Indianapolis Colts. That was against the Houston Texans. That was back when Deshaun Watson was the quarterback of the Houston Texans. The Texans had won the division that year. The Colts, they were a wild card team. They came into the Houston Texans and they beat them. And that, I was like, okay, here we go. We're going on a run now. Andrew Luck and this young team. That was when Leonard won Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Man, the last time the Colts have had a home playoff game, the last time the Colts have won the division was back in 2014. Now, I didn't go to this game. It was against the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Colts did win 26-10. Andrew Luck had like a falling throw to Dante Moncrief, 40 yards, just on a dot to Dante Moncrief for a touchdown. I watched the game, but I didn't go. But the last time I've been to a playoff game, I want to go really bad. The last time I've been to a playoff game was in 2013 against the Kansas City Chiefs. That was the game. That was the game where the Colts were down 38-10 and they came back, won against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I've been waiting for that since then, man. I've been waiting for a home playoff game, and I feel like the Colts have a really good opportunity. But you gotta wait. You gotta wait and see. The Jaguars have the Buccaneers, and it only gets easier for the Jaguars. So this is really one of their big chances. And Trevor Lawrence, he's also out. He may be out. I'm gonna rephrase that. He might be out. He hasn't practiced. He's had a concussion. He's been banged up. There is a chance that the Colts win the division. And man, if that is the case, I'd be thrilled. I tell you that right now, because I've been waiting for the Colts to win the division. The Texans have won the division since then. The Titans have won the division since then. The Jaguars have won the division since then. The Jaguars have won the division, made an AFC championship game, and lost to the Patriots. All within the time before, since the last time the Colts won a division title, 2014. It's time to win that this year, and it starts on Sunday. Starts with the Falcons. Starts with the Buccaneers beating the Jags. Let's go, man! I'm excited. Let's go, Colts.